we, did so much training on flat or on roads. My wife here forgot to pick up her feet because, on a road it's different than running in a timber where there's roots and rocks. And I think the
Yeah.
first 5 miles, she was down on the ground. I don't know,
three times? Four?
At least 4.
Oh.
I think the last time it was like, she was right ahead of me and she hit a tree root that, grown across the trail like tree roots do. And she didn't even get her hands out. She just went face first. And
I didn't even know what happened until I was on the ground. I said, well, I just hit my head. And it was, it was like, boy, this isn't good. We've got about 30 some more miles to go, or 20. So.
Yeah, she came up bloody, and she had, she had, I think 25 or 6 miles left. And that was her, like, say, 4th or 5th time down on the ground. But I guess she did learn because she didn't do it again.
Yeah.
This is your host, Brendan, and you're listening to the Ordinary to Ultra podcast. This podcast is all about helping you run your first ultramarathon and beyond. Tune in to hear new and experienced ultra runners share how they got into running in the first place, what inspired them to run an ultra, training and race day tips, and the gripping story of their first ultramarathon. Prepare yourself to be inspired as you hear stories of grit, sometimes failure, but ultimately triumph when our guests finally cross the finish line. Hey, Dianna and Steve, welcome to the Ordinary to Ultra podcast. Super excited to have both of you here. This is cool because we had your son Josh on just a few weeks ago, and we learned about him and his story, and I'm super excited to get your story today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. Real quick, I'd love to have you introduce yourselves at a high level, like where y'all are living these days, what you're doing if you're working, what your family looks like, maybe how old you are as well.
You go first?
Okay. All right. Well, I'm 72 years old. I just had my birthday during an ultramarathon.
Oh, awesome. Happy birthday.
And we live in a small town in Illinois, west central Illinois, basically. We live on a farm. We've lived here, well, not on our farm forever, but we've always lived in this area all our lives. I'm a retired special education teacher, just retired a couple of years ago. That's
awesome. And you're still doing the farm thing? You're still running a farm?
Yeah, I'll let him talk about the farm.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good.
We farm. And
cool.
We have 5 kids, 8 grandkids, and 2 great-granddaughters. And most everybody is all runners. All our kids are runners except one, and he chose bouldering instead of running. He's doesn't care for the running like we all do.
Yeah. He likes the climbing. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What about you, Steve?
Well, I'm 73 years old. I used to work in town and I farmed on the side. And so when I got old enough that I didn't have to work in town anymore, I don't, and I just farm. I do have a part-time job off the farm too. I work at a local YMCA on occasion.
Awesome.
I used to have a self-defense class I also taught. I think when COVID hit, pretty much all of our students, we had to cancel, quit doing stuff. And so no one really came back. And so it was just me and another guy. We still meet a couple times a week, but So yeah, that's pretty much our life. We just farm. We do other things. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. What are you doing at the YMCA? What kind of work?
well, I just get there real early in the morning and open up,
Oh,
and
okay. Awesome.
that's about it. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
I've been doing it for a long time, and just
Yeah,
open the door and turn on the lights and make the coffee, and that's
yeah.
about it. And then
Cool,
after
cool.
I also had my self-defense classes at the Y.
Ah, okay. That's sweet. What kind of self-defense? Was it like a specific art style? Like, there's like jujitsu and like karate and like, or is it like more street self-defense? Like, I don't know.
Well, I've been through a couple different ones. I used to do taekwondo, and then went into
Taekwondo.
another little more maybe aggressive or violent type of self-defense, and then I started my own, where the other two was a lot of unnecessary stuff they taught you that wasn't practical in the real world. And we feel
Yeah,
like now, so we kind of got rid of a lot of that. It's basic and we actually called it street self-defense. That's
there you
basically
go.
what we called it. Just basically do whatever, use whatever, pick up whatever to defend yourself. And that's where we're at. It's pretty much mine. It's not a jujitsu, not a
Yeah.
Krav
And you,
Maga. It's not anything.
yeah.
It's just a basic dirty
Steve,
fighting techniques, I guess. I don't know.
the
It's just,
Steve.
yeah. So anyway, that's what it
Very
is.
cool. Awesome. Thanks for elaborating. That's very cool. You're doing that, and you both run. Yeah. These days, I mean, how often are y'all getting out to go on a run?
Well, we try to do something 7 days a week, but some days it's just walking.
Okay.
We're not now, nor have we ever been good runners. We just participated in events because our family did, and they invite us along, but we don't really consider ourselves good runners at all. But we do a form of exercise about 7 days a week, and we still do a lot of strength training. That's about 4 days a week, and then one day maybe walking or 2 days of walking. But when we walk, we try to get in a lot of miles.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Cool. Well, that's sweet. I mean, good runner is relative. The fact that you've both completed ultramarathon distances would suggest to like a normal person who's not a runner, like, holy crap, you're a good runner, would probably be their response to that. Like, what is this guy saying? He's fantastic. But yeah, it's funny how that's all relative. Some people gawk at you when you're like, yeah, I just did my 7-mile run, my regular run today, and they're like, holy cow, that's so long. Interesting stuff. So now I'd like to get into your pasts regarding running. So we can maybe have both of you speak to this if it was in a different manner and time when you both started running, but I'd love to hear when and why you started running.
Well, I think about 59.
Okay.
Just I was helping out at a couple of 5Ks, and then my daughter said, "Why don't you run some of these with us?" And I said, "Well, I can't really help if I'm running." And she told me she'd work it out. And so one of them happened to be our whole family came is all the same race, and so we didn't all run together, but we were all there running, and so it was kind of like, well, this is kind of fun because I get to see the kids and all this stuff, and it wasn't too long after that, as I said, it's kind of like it was a gift. I feel that God spoke to me one day and told me I needed to run, and because I was going to need to. So that's what we did. We just started running, and I practically ran every day, either on weekends or after school, just certain amounts. Some things wasn't like it was in, a certain amount of miles or anything at a time. That's how I got started.
Nice. And still on your wavelength, Dianna. Well, no, we'll ask that later. That's how you started. And then, yeah, let's hear how Steve got into it too. Did you convert him over, or did he have his own path? What happened?
Well, I probably didn't then, and I probably still don't now really enjoy running, but
Yeah.
we had, circumstances put upon us that we didn't realize it at the time, but running was the best thing we could do. And of course, sometimes you don't realize when something's given to you that you think is wrong, but it turns out. But I think this wasn't necessarily running, but for my 65th birthday, a friend of mine decided we was going to do something somewhat difficult. So we was going to do a rim to rim hike at the Grand Canyon. One day, rim to rim. So then my daughter and her husband and a couple friends, plus Joshua, decided they wanted to join us, which I'm glad they didn't because my friend backed out on it. And so we trained, and it was took a lot of miles, but we started at I think we started at 4:10 in the morning at the North Rim, and by 3:30 in the afternoon it was we was out, and it's like 24 miles. We did the south. I can't tell you the name of it. There's different routes. The South Khabib Trail and the North something, and it ended up being about 24. So that was my first experience into long distance something.
Long stuff. Can I ask a question about what time of year was it that you did it?
We did it on Labor Day weekend.
So September, right?
Yes. So yeah.
Good timing.
Yeah, it was not overly hot. It was, you get down to the Phantom Ranch, and that's about the hottest point of it, but we had all trained well and hard, and but I guess you really can't train enough because I was really hurting by the time, there's altitude involved. I think the North Rim might be 8,000 feet and the South Rim 7,000. And so it wasn't a big effect on us, but there's just enough. And then with the exertion and it was so that was my first venture into it. And then I think the very next year was when we kind of had some things happen. And we'd already started training for just a marathon. And it was a blessing that we had because, anyway, that was our first marathon. I was like 60, almost 66. And then from there, it just kind of grew, I guess.
Okay. Marathon. Woo. And for your marathon, did you have the goal of just completing it? Did you have a time goal? Did you have any goals around it?
Basically complete it and still be alive at the end.
Right? That's how I felt. Yeah. Marathon. Go ahead.
Felt well. I mean, it was good. We ran together on that one, and it was hard. There was a place at the end where you come off a bridge, and over to the right, you could see the finish line, and you hear everybody yelling and all that. And so, I mean, it's like just a few blocks away. It's like, yes. But then there's a sign in front of it that says marathoners to the left, which meant we got 6 more miles to go. So we had to run away from the finish line and then back again. And oh man, that was like tough. There were places where we'd walk a little bit. We'd say, okay, let's run to the next telephone pole. And it was like, we'd almost make it sometimes. And then we eventually made it. I thought we did pretty good time. I don't remember what the time was, but for our first endeavor, I didn't think it was too bad.
Nice. I totally understand that feeling of you pass the finish line, but you're not there. Oh my goodness, that is the worst. My marathon was the same way. On the map, the finish line is like just to the east of me, and I'm just to the west of it. But then instead of just crossing over on the street that connects it, it was like this extra 3-mile loop. And I was like, why? I just want to be done right now. Like the last 3 miles, you're like, I just want to be done. Pain. But hey, makes for good memories.
It does.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you both did that marathon together, and that's cool. Okay, so that's sort of what got you into running. And have you been consistently running? Dianna, you said you were 59 when you did the 5K, and Steve, you said it was 60 when you did that rim to rim. Oh, you're 65. Okay, 65. I got that wrong. So you, Dianna, you started running first.
Right.
Pretty much.
And I did a lot of 5Ks. And I just kind of did a rough count. Between the time I started and today, I ran like about 150 different races from 5Ks to ultras. So, but some
cool
those years that I really needed to run, I'd run like 30, actual events. So a year, and of course, a year in the Midwest is a very short time because of they don't have races when it's bitter cold and all of that, but that didn't stop us from working out. But
yeah,
but we say we're in perpetual training. We train all the time just in case we get a call from one of the kids and say, we just signed up for this. Do you want to do it? Okay, I'll sign up and do it. So it's not like we sit around waiting on something to happen. So
that's cool. Perpetual training. Yeah, that can be tiring. Do you ever feel burned out?
No, no, not really. Yeah, it just it's a mental thing. We do it for our mental health as much as our physical health, and so you don't want to burn out your mental health. You need that.
Yeah, for me, it's like a blend of signing up for events to like push yourself to do something cool, but not doing too many because then it becomes like work, and you want running to be fun and like a release.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So you're running, you're both doing some running, some long distance stuff. You both do your marathon. When Steve's 66, right? And then Dianna, you'd be 65. Yeah, ish. So when did you hear about ultramarathon running? Like, when did that get on your radar and how?
Well, basically Joshua, he started, he did all those trail runs and stuff. I mean, out, in Las Vegas and I don't know, he talked about it, and I decided just to kind of research it a little bit, and it was kind of funny. I noticed he didn't say this on when you talked to him, but we had signed up for this ultra in Harrison, Tennessee, and of course we told him, and he signed up too. But he told us later, he says, if I waited to do that, then you guys, I wouldn't be the first to do an ultra marathon in the family. So he signed up for one before that in Las Vegas so he could say, I did an ultra marathon first.
Oh, man.
So it's like, well, whatever you want to do, if it makes you feel better. But one thing I felt about an ultra is when you're road racing, you just got to run all the time. And the older I got, the more, this sprint business is kind of crazy. But with the ultras, when you're running through the trails and everything, it gives you an out to walk. Every once in a while, you don't feel so bad about walking. And so that's kind of why we enjoy it, at least. I don't know if he feels the same way, but
yeah, I just want to get off the road. I have no enjoyment running down a paved road. Actually, this is my own personal opinion. You too, okay? Yeah. I really enjoy being out in hills and trails, and it can be really difficult. You probably ran some tough trails there, but it's just running on the road is just like I just don't want to do it, and it's hard on I don't know. I just find trail running so much better. So that's what I'm doing. I have no desire to go out and do another road marathon. And the only place you can find ultras seem like off road. I think. I don't know. Not
yeah,
sure.
Mostly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I feel you, Steve. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, the road is. I mean, I'm lucky to live in a beautiful area, so it doesn't feel that terrible. But if I was, and it's kind of rural where I am, so we got some nice rolling hills and some beautiful fields and mountains to look at. But like, if I was in a city running, or I don't know, or a flat land where I couldn't see, like maybe you feel that in Illinois. I don't know how flat it is where you are, but if I was just looking at cornfields or something, I'd probably lose my mind too. Anyway.
We really, that's all we have is cornfields, and we were training for our first. Well, even our first ultra, basically the only training we got is on roads. I mean, we have some timber back on our farm that we train on a lot, and they're hills. They're just hills. They're really good addition to your training. But if you're trying to get in like buku miles, but the blacktop roads, they get so hot. I mean, if it's 85 degrees out, I think the blacktop roads can be up to 115 or 20. And so that's kind of for our first few runs, and so it's just not fun to me. I don't know. So if I can find a hill or enough hills to train on out in the timber, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, I feel it, man. It's just fun to be in a prettier spot too, and some diversity instead of running on a straight line road forever. Mm-hmm. I get it. I love it. So, okay. That's so funny about Josh.
Yeah.
That prideful man.
Yeah. They'll say it's the middle child syndrome, but
take that, Josh. Yeah, you'll listen to this, I'm sure. Shots fired. You're so funny, but man, good for you. Okay, so Josh got his first ultra out of the way, and that was the one he did near Vegas or in Vegas.
I think it was somewhere near there, yes, or in there.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yours was, yeah. You said yours was in Tennessee.
Yes, and he was there too. He did it too.
He did it too, but you had the first idea. You had that idea. And how did you say that the the idea came to you, or that race came up
Well,
in your life?
I think he talked about it, and I just kind of
Okay.
looked. I think I just got on, um, you know, Googled it and was looking for, and I was looking for. This is kind of silly, but I was wanting something that didn't have so many hills and real high mountains and stuff like that. Because I've ran with him out in Las Vegas at Red Rock, and it's just terrible. I mean, I think it is, but of course, I prefer running on a road. But anyway, um, and all of a sudden, what was the name of it? Mad Moose. I don't know. Well, anyway,
I'll think.
I've just lost the name of it. Um, I can see it, but anyway, I thought, well, it showed some pictures of it and everything. I thought, well, this looks like a good one, kind of flat and everything. It doesn't look like it's too bad, and so I just had in my head that's what we'll do. It just looks kind of flat and out in this nice park area and all this. And I think when we were driving there, Steve had to mention to me. He says, I don't think it's flat in Tennessee. I think there's like hills and even mountains. And I'm going, oh, I think this is pretty flat. Well, it wasn't flat. It was lots of hills, and there was no mountains, but it was very hilly and steep. But it was just a chance that I found that one. I don't know. I just the mountains, like the real high altitudes, are not, well, fairly high. I don't fare well. I get altitude sickness pretty badly, and so I didn't get it there. But Colorado and Utah, it doesn't like me. So
Yeah.
So just kind of
Man.
by chance, we found that one in Harrison.
Okay, Harrison, Tennessee, and it's hilly.
It's by Chattanooga. Yeah.
By Chattanooga. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I'm really bad at my geography, but the Appalachians or the Smokies or something happen in Tennessee. So
Yeah.
you're
Well,
lucky
I
you
was just
missed
looking
that.
at pictures. But then I was also told that a lot of those pictures that they take for these races to advertise and isn't at the place those are held. And it's like, well, okay. That's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, we did a half marathon a couple years ago at Bryan's Head. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, that's Utah, right?
Yeah.
It was a night, and you started at night. And it was kind of cool or neat, I guess. That's one of my more favorite halves, I guess you call
it. Yeah, what? At night? Like, what time did it start?
7 was the earliest that you could start. And then it just, you had to sign up for different times, and if no matter whenever you could get in. I think our time was 7:30, but we started earlier. He was able to, so. He liked it. I didn't fare well, but we made it. It was tough.
That altitude hitting you?
Oh yeah, it was awful. It was awful. I didn't realize it was that high.
How high?
And once again, you have to go up a ski lift to get to the top of the mountain, and I didn't think there was going to be an altitude. But Joshua went to that one too.
How high was that?
Was it 11?
I think it started at 11, and
goodness gracious,
but it kind of worked its way down. It was like, say, it was just I would call it a cow path. It's just a narrow. There was no roads until you got to about the last half a mile to the finish line. There was a road, but the rest of it, just, if you know what I mean by a cow path, it's just a foot wide path. And they had you had your headlamps, and it was. I thought it was cool. I really did. The point of it was there was a meteor shower going to take place. You're supposed to be able to see it really good from Bryan's Head, and it was cloudy night, so we didn't get to. But it was still neat. It's still good. It was still good. I wouldn't. It was still good.
Cool. That's a cool event. Was it like at sunset, so it wasn't like dark until you were finishing, probably?
Well, it got dark pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't a really running because of the path. The trail was more of a, you could run some, but it's more of a walking type. This, I say, because just dirt path. And I say it's narrow and
you're kind of hanging off the side of a mountain a little bit.
it was, yeah, I mean, it was pitch
Yeah.
black when we got done, which that to me added
Yeah.
to the enjoyment of it. You're just out there in the dark.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's other people with headlamps. And
What was neat was when we crossed the finish line, you turn around and you look at the people behind you, and it was just like a steady flow of lights coming right at you. And it was like, you didn't realize, there's hundreds of people out there. I mean, some people didn't start till 3:00 in the morning or whatever. Of course, we were gone by then, but it's just the way it was set up. It was called Cedar Breaks at night. And that was their first one they had there. So it was kind of an inaugural thing. But we did well on our age groups. I got first, and I think you got second, I think, in our age group.
Nice. Good for you guys. That's very high to start a race. I mean, dang. And cool to run at night. I mean, that's something you'd want to do. I mean, that's a cool experience. I feel what you're saying, Steve. It's just kind of cool to be out at night running, but lots of 100-miler people running through the night. So good practice for that if you were to ever be that crazy. So let's head back to this 50K in Harrison, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? And it was a 50K, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Do you remember how much elevation gain your 50K had?
I don't.
No, I don't. There was just a lot of up and down hills, and
There wasn't a tremendous amount of gain. There just was no flat areas. So you picture that. It's just more up and down without a lot of, it's not, yeah, you didn't gain a lot. I don't feel like anyway.
It was like a 7-mile loop is how it was.
A loop. Okay.
I think Joshua kind of explained it was like a lollipop where you ran out on the stick, and then there was a place where it kind of made a circle, and you could go either direction. It didn't matter which way.
That's right.
And it didn't matter which way you went because it was just hard. But
either way.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, probably a couple 1,000 feet of elevation gain. And if you want, we can all listen to Josh's episode again to remember. Okay. So we're at the 50K event, and what year was this?
6 years. It was for our 50th anniversary, so it was 2000. I don't know, 19? 218, yeah. 218.
2018. And this is a little bit after your first marathon, I think, if we're keeping track of time. Okay, so 2018, here's the 50K, and I'd love to hear the story of it. So I know this was a couple years ago, so you've maybe forgot some things, but I'd love to hear in as much detail as you can muster and remember how the race went. Like from the night before, like how was sleep? How were you nervous? You were probably, were you camping in a hotel? Were you in a hotel down there? I don't know. And then what you ate for breakfast, all these little details. And then if you remember, whatever you remember, when you started the race, how you're feeling, anything notable that happened during the race. And then when you cross the finish line, up until you cross the finish line, let's hear all of what you remember.
Well, I remember the night before we had prepaid for a meal at the race event. And, once we pay for something, we're going to eat it, right? We don't generally throw, money around. And it was really not good. It was kind of some kind of
supposed to be spaghetti, but it was noodles, some kind, but pasta, but it.
So anyway, that was our before meal. But Josh wouldn't eat it, so we went to the steak and whatever
The steakhouse. Yeah, he had steak.
He had steak, and we sat there and watched him eat it because we already had our spaghetti, so we couldn't. And it's kind of cool. Well, it was in November, so it was kind of cool. And the next day, and we dressed appropriately, and we slept in a hotel the night before. And I really don't. I think my typical, and I don't know, my typical pre-race meal is usually like a half a cup of oatmeal or something, and maybe I make my own trail mix, and so I might have some nuts and stuff. That's pretty much what I eat. I don't know. You eat egg or anything?
Yeah, I'm not.
But it was being we did so much training on flat or on roads. My wife here forgot to pick up her feet because on a road it's different than running in a timber where there's roots and rocks. And I think the first 5 miles she was down on the ground. I don't know,
three times. 4,
at least 4. I think the last time it was she was right ahead of me, and she hit a tree root that grown across the trail like tree roots do, and she didn't even get her hands out. She just went face first. And
I didn't even know it happened until I was on the ground. I said, "Well, I just hit my head." It was. Yeah. It was like, boy, this isn't good. We've got about 30 some more miles to go, or 20. So.
Yeah, she came up bloody, and she had. She had, I think 25 or 6 miles left, and that was her, like, say, 4th or 5th time down on the ground. I guess she did learn because she didn't do it again.
Yeah.
But when you train on roads and you kind of tend to not pick your feet up very high, and then when you get out to where there's obstacles, I guess you got to learn the hard way to pick your feet up. And so that was probably our biggest setbacks, was because it was a rugged trail and there was a lot of rock, and I don't know, really not much more to. We just race was over, and we got in our car and we drove back to Illinois. So it was like 8 or 10 hour drive.
Well, I'll back you up on that a little bit, but one thing they had that I thought was really cool is they had 2 aid stations, one at the beginning and then one kind of in the middle, and they were like cooking hamburgers and things on the grill. And so you'd stop at one aid station and tell them, by the time I get to the next one, I want my hamburger ready, which we never partook in that. But that was the first time I learned about pickle juice shots and how good they are. I mean, it was like I couldn't wait, so I get some more pickle juice shots. And we do a lot of pickle juice now since we've learned all about pickle juice. But that quick little burst it gives us. But when we left,
do you feel like?
I'm sorry. When we left,
going to say, do you feel like? Oh, sorry. Now I'm interrupting you again. Sorry, I think there's a little delay here. You mentioned the pickle juice. Does it give you energy, or is it just help with the electrolytes?
Well, I think it's both, isn't it? I mean,
probably.
Yeah. It's a real quick, it just like a burst of, and then of course that it helps you too in the long run with electrolytes. But
cool. I'm glad you like that. I'm not a pickle guy, but maybe that would change me.
Well, I wasn't either until that. Now I buy it by the gallon.
Really?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, when we left there, Joshua drove our car, and we went to go get pizza because we were starving. Well, he jumps out of the car. We get in the parking lot, and he jumps out of the car, and he heads to this pizza place. And we're still in the car. and trying to figure out how we're going to get our feet and legs out of the car because we couldn't move. And he finally comes down and opens the door, and it was that terrible walk, it was just so painful. And of course, then we came to a curb, and it's like, how do you get over this curb? It was like we both kind of looked at each other and tried to figure out a way we was going to get up on that curb so we can get to the pizza.
Got about all that.
Dang.
Would you ever get that sore after a race?
Me? I've not run a 50K yet, so I can't speak to that. I've run a marathon, and I was so sore after. But like, I was also really pushing it because like that's how the marathon vibe is, right? Like, we haven't talked about that much this episode, but the road running vibe is like push it really hard the entire time. So I like didn't walk any of it. I did 9-minute, 15-second mile pace the entire way until the end, when I was maybe doing like a 10:30 pace. So I was just wrecked after because I put everything I had into that. So yeah, I feel that. We went to Panda Express after, and yeah, I'm like limping around, like wobbling real weird. People are probably like, "What's up with this guy?" But I was wearing my bib, so they're probably like, "Oh, he just did something crazy."
Yep.
Yeah, I feel that. That's super funny. I didn't ask you, how did y'all feel when you crossed the finish line? Like, did you like mentally, emotionally, and physically? Like, how were you feeling?
Well, mentally, I felt great because it was like, was just, yeah, I was physically tired and so glad it was over. And, but the mental part, it was like, it was good. It was really good.
Yeah.
I think completing a marathon or ultra marathon or 100, whatever one you're doing, it's a feeling that you cannot get that sense of achievement that you can't get that in the world any other way than to put yourself out there and everything you've literally got. I mean, what do we do nowadays to experience that? You have to enter something and do something hard. It's basically what it is.
Well said. Yeah, I think that there's something really deep to what you just said. Like, you won't get that satisfaction out of easy things. You get that immense satisfaction when you do something that really kicks your butt, and you're like maybe even thinking you're not going to make it, or it was just so hard, and you push through. Like, whether that's a marathon and running, or even other things in life, when it could be starting a business, and you finally, like, I don't know, make it somehow. I don't know, you're making a certain amount of money, or you're helping people. Like, when you do hard things, you get that immense satisfaction.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. That's like a true principle that I hope I'm trying to live more in my life. Like, let's do hard things, because that's how we grow and feel that satisfaction after. If I just sit watching Netflix all day, I'm going to hate myself. So go out and do something. Yeah.
There's
it's
a guy that wrote a book we've all read, most of our family have read. I don't know who, he was an ex-Navy SEAL, and one of his chapter, like 7 or 8, the headline was "Do Something Hard," and he just kind of recommends that people get out of their comfort zone and take on something that you don't feel comfortable doing. And I guess we'll be physically and mentally rewarded for that. And
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of lived that, by taking on these things. And
Mm-hmm. Well said. I think is that Goggins? David Goggins?
No, it was, Goggins didn't write this one. This was, unless he used Goggins, phrasing, but this was that. He's a congressman, I think now, from Texas.
Oh.
And, we'll think of it before this is over, Elizabeth. He wrote this whole book. It was somewhat interesting, but that chapter was,
Crenshaw.
Yeah, Dan Crenshaw? Dan? That sound familiar? Dan Crenshaw?
Not to me, but the only Navy SEAL guy that I think of with the ultramarathon running too is David Goggins. But
right.
There's another guy. That's cool. These Navy SEALs, they get a lot of publicity because they did hard things, and then they all
I think
turn around and teach people.
Or add that into his.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's cool.
I know.
It is Dan Crenshaw. That is who it is, yeah.
Okay.
And he wrote
remember the book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was called, the book?
The book?
I'll look it up here. Let's see.
Sitting in the living room. I can't
Go
see it
for
from here.
Oh, we have it?
Yeah. Oh. Who's the one that said embrace the suck? That's always a good. My daughter always says that whenever we go on some adventure we do. It's always embrace the suck.
Nice. That's so funny. That sounds like Goggins to me. Yeah. Or somebody like that. Maybe a different ultra runner. Embrace the pain cave. It is what it is.
Yeah. Did you find it?
Man. Yeah. Got Steve going to find the book.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Looks like
the name of
it is Fortitude.
Fortitude.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's not specifically. Go ahead.
He was injured, and it's just how he got through all that. And of course, he's still dealing with it, but.
Okay.
Anyway.
Cool. So I know. So you finished that race, and I failed to ask before. So sorry, listeners, for being like out of order here. But I failed to ask you what training looked like for your 50K. Did you have a plan? Were you following some sort of plan? Were you just doing your own thing? What did that look like?
I Googled it and got a 50K plan. I think it's Callaway that did it. And
cool.
We didn't do it 100% because we were both still working, or I was working, and he don't like to do stuff unless I have to kind of push him to do things during the week. And so I'd try to do what I could after school, and then our weekends would be our Saturdays would be our long runs. And we live in a rural area that's surrounded. There's about 3 towns, 1, 2, 3, 4 towns. And when we had to do the long miles, like 26 miles in a day, we'd go through like 4 towns. We'd have to run to one town and run to the next, and then back to the next. It was just like, and it gets so hot, and it's just one time we left at 3:00 in the morning so we could beat the sun, and it's when the sun came up, it was like, oh, don't come up, I've got 20 more miles to go, and it's going to be hot. But there was always something going on. It used to be when we'd be running down the road, people would stop, want to pick us up, and they, of course, they don't anymore. They just wave as they go by.
Yeah.
During that particular training, we had went more miles the week before than this one, but we were still going to try to make it, and we were heading out. We were a long ways from home, and he'd gotten word that good friend of his had passed away, and we were running, and it was just pouring down, raining. I mean, just terrible. We were probably 4 or 5 miles from home, and of course we heard that news about that friend, and it was like, would somebody please stop and pick us up? We didn't want to walk or run another inch, but nobody came by. But which was kind of good, because then we could kind of work through the emotion of losing the friend, and it was like just kind of put a damper on things. But it seems like every long run there's always something to remember. But
yeah, it's a long time to be out there.
Yeah.
Do y'all talk to each other when you go on your long runs, or do you listen to something, or just go in silence?
We mainly talk, and for the first few hours, we have a lot to talk about. We try to save, like instead of talking about it the night before, I'll just save that for tomorrow, and then eventually you run out of things, and then it's just, we talk about books we're reading, and just pretty much anything, and then eventually you just run out of stuff, and then you just tough it out. And that's about it. When I'm running by myself, I usually have music, but when we're running together, we don't. We usually just try to entertain each other, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. Well, to wrap up, I know you've done other races since this 50K. Maybe we could hear your side of the story on that timed race, or any other race you'd like to talk about. But yeah, what do y'all think?
Well, I think when we signed up to do the nanny goat Memorial Weekend, that to me, I was really, really, really looking forward to it, because it's kind of the ultimate test of how far you can really go. And
yeah, because this is a 24 hours, right? Is
right.
What you did.
And you'd like to quit. There was a 6-hour, 12-hour, 24-hour, and 100-miler. The first group of people drop out at 6 hours. The second group of people, drop out at 12 hours. And there you kind of wish that you had signed up for the 12 hours. And,
yep.
But it was literally, I don't know. I think I would, somebody like you, that I think you would like it, because this is your ultimate, most races have mileage, you're going to do this and then you're done. Well, this here, you just go, and pretty soon you can't hardly go, but you go. I don't know. It's just, I think I really
anyways.
Enjoyed that after it's over.
Wow. Yeah, right. Goodness, it's so long. Then Dianna, I think you did the 12-hour. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I went 36 minutes on that, and 12.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, what was that experience like for both of you? What you remember from that race, from like before and until the finish line? Like, how were y'all feeling at different points?
Well, I thought we trained well. And another thing we really worked on training was actually eating and drinking.
Okay.
Because that was a big downfall of ours, always been. And so we knew what we needed to do, and was prepared for it. So the only thing we kept thinking about is, how do you keep moving for 24 hours? Don't you eventually just fall asleep? So it was kind of the unknown what transpired. Of course, I just did 12, so I could stay awake 12 hours, but I was done at 12 hours. My feet hurt, my calves, I thought they were on fire, but it was actually a really neat, because it's on a horse ranch, and I'm a horse lover, and everywhere you went, there was a horse, and it was just like died and went to heaven. I could beat that. And
cool.
it was just, people were nice, and it was, overall just really good. It had good aid station, and so I thought it was an overall good thing for me.
Well, for me,
And
I didn't really know the race was going to be over because it's 24 hours. And my last lap, I was really, really, really struggling. I was like staggering. I would like go to the left, go to the right, try to correct. And so Joshua came up behind me, and he was getting close to where you go through the, what do you call that? Where you go the
start finish
line.
Time.
He come up behind me and said, "How you feeling?" I said, "Well, not too good." And I had time to keep going. And he said, "Well, what mile are you on?" I said, "Well, this will be 60." He just said, "I think you've done enough." And so it was like, I just kind of stopped, and I was just like standing still. I was still moving because, I don't know. Anyway, so basically that was the end of my race. I crossed the finish line. And I guess I could have went out for more, but I'm not sure if I would have. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it was, I guess that's the ultimate of where you push to see how far you can go. And I guess 60 miles was it. So.
Dang. That's so cool. So you felt like emotionally and mentally felt pretty triumphant at that moment, or what was going through your head?
I don't know. I hadn't sat down since it started at 8:00 Saturday morning. And the way I understood, some people that have experienced these kind of races, they'll take 20-minute breaks. Or one guy that was one of the elite runners, he took a 2-hour. So he evidently slept or something. But I didn't realize people did that. I just kept moving. So I'd never sat down until I crossed that mile 60. And so I don't know if I felt any elation. I think I kind of felt somewhat like, well, I could keep going, but I don't know if I could have. I mean, I probably couldn't have, but there was time left to keep going. But but I didn't know if I felt anything other than I did sit down for the first time since 8:00 Saturday morning, and I don't know if I don't know. There wasn't no whooping it up, and no high fiving or nothing. You just went over and sat down. That was the end of the race.
I mean, after 24 hours, I can just imagine your brain being like, just like totally gone. Like, yep, I just want to sit down and not move.
Yeah, that was the thing. The thought of moving is like, I can't do that. I mean, I remember sitting and the porta potties were about a half a block away, and it was like, I got to go over there, but it's like, it's going to take me. I don't want to do this, but yeah.
Dang.
So that's probably the race that I'll remember for the longest period of my life will be that one there, I think, because I literally, as I say, I gave it all I had. So I guess I'll remember that one for.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations for doing that. And that's such a hard thing. I don't know if I'm going to have to look into timed races in Utah, but I haven't heard of many. But I'm intrigued by the idea because then I could rather than signing up for a distance I'm not sure I can hit, I could just see how far I could go in a certain amount of time with no constraint for miles. That sounds nice. That sounds relieving in a way.
I mean, honestly, I really felt it really was. There's no, I have to do 26 or I have to do 40. It seemed like the pressure was off. I thought.
Yeah. See how far you can go. And it's just up to you and no pressure. Yeah. I like the idea of it. Well, let's everybody go sign up for timed race now. Okay. Yeah. Everyone listening. Yep. Let's go sign up for a timed race, and see how far we can go. What was that?
I think there's quite a few of them around. You just got to find them.
Yeah. I've heard of a lot of them out east, for some reason, but I haven't seen many out here. I have heard of one, so I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But thank you for sharing your stories today, Dianna and Steve. I appreciate your perspective and your stories, helping other people see they can do hard things too. If you could do it, they can too, right?
Yes.
If you had any final advice to give a new person, someone who's thinking about signing up for their first 50K, their first timed 12-hour race, whatever, what final advice do you think you'd give those people?
Well, I don't know.
It's a tough question. You can take a second.
It is tough.
I guess I don't know, because you really have to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Most people just don't want to do it. And that's probably the number one thing you need in your heart is your fear of failure and your wanting to get out there and do it.
Unless you're, really, really, your body's broken down, I think anybody could do something. You don't have to run. You can walk, and, it just go as far as you can go. It's like, that would be I set a goal, and I wanted to do 32 laps or 32 miles, and I did 36. And, so I had a goal, but, if you just do it and work for it, and you only make a couple laps, that's good. At least you gave it everything you could. But, I don't know. I guess we get more people saying, oh, I wish I could do that, but I've got bad knees or whatever. And, I don't know.
It's always
it's just
the knees.
It's always something, and, we don't really know too many people our age. Well, there isn't too many people our age that do this, but then, there is out there in the world, but the people we hang out with, at least, they're lucky, they got to get the first parking spot in front of the building, but so I don't know. I guess just repeat that, just do something hard, whatever's hard, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
No, it's true. We just got to sign up for the thing. You just got to do hard things, because it's so rewarding. Even if you don't finish, however far you get, but so rewarding to do hard things. And I appreciate having you both on so much. You all are the oldest people that I've had on the podcast. And I know there are people, older than you that do ultramarathons. Mm-hmm. I talked to a lady an earlier episode this year, who ran a timed race with an 80-year-old, and he did 100 miles in 48 hours. It was or maybe it was I think it was Race of the Ages. So he had 80 hours and he ran 100 miles in 80 hours or something. And you can sleep and whatever. But if he can do this, if he can do hard things, you can too, go out there, do a hard thing. So rewarding. Well, thank you both. Thank you both. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your stories. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, your host Brendan here. I just wanted to thank you personally for listening to today's episode. As someone preparing for my own first ultramarathon, I've found these conversations to be super valuable, and I hope they are for you as well. Whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or somewhere else, make sure to follow or subscribe so you know when the next episode comes out. Also, make sure you check out the show notes of this episode. There's a link to sign up for the Ordinary to Ultra email newsletter, to join our Facebook and Strava groups where you can meet other people striving to run their first ultra marathon, and see any links that our guests may have provided as well. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next episode.